Bedford, Virginia, to Tucson, Arizona, Minneapolis to Los Angeles, this is your favorite home improvement radio hour. Everybody has a place, big or small, that they call home. And every home needs maintenance, repair, and remodeling. That's why I'm here, Tom Bamford, to guide you through the maze of products, services, and people you need to make your home as cozy as can be. It's the Home Show. Hey, if you were here last week, you know we were talking about the workshop, your workshop, my workshop, the tools and the techniques and the stuff you need to have a great workshop. We also visited with Peter Hatch, who is the master gardener at Thomas Jefferson's Monticello. Now, if you missed that and you want to hear about some of that stuff, go to our website, KCMOTalkRadio.com, KCMOTalkRadio.com, and listen to the podcast. Today, on the Home Show, we're going to the dogs. Because, after all, what's a home without a pet?
How much is that doggy in the window?
That's right. My favorite veterinarian, Dr. Andrea Ferrell, is joining us to answer all of your dog, cat, pet questions. Dr. Ferrell, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Tom. I always have a great time on the show.
You know, and you can give us a call, 576-7710, or send us an email, 710 homeshow at 710kcmo.com. I have got emails that we're going to talk about here very shortly. We're going to begin with those. But I want to remind you, Dr. Ferrell is one of the principal veterinarians at Perimeter Veterinary Center. She's out at 23734 West 83rd Street in Lenexa. That's kind of Shawnee, isn't it?
It is in Shawnee, across the street from Lenexa. It's 83rd Terrace, and it is just right there past the Sonic, for those of you who know where that is.
For those of you who know the area. So if you are out in kind of western Johnson County, in Lenexa, in Shawnee, you could be in northern kind of Olathe. If you're down in that area, out to DeSoto, out to Eudora, there is a wonderful veterinary clinic for you at the Perimeter Veterinary Center. Check out their website, perimeterveterinarycenter.com, perimeterveterinarycenter.com. If you want to make an appointment, call 913-742-8387. And your partner is Dr. Tabitha Regehr. How's she doing?
She is doing great, and we are loving the practice. We're coming up on a year being open.
Isn't that amazing?
So we are just loving it and have a great partnership, and it's just been really wonderful.
Well, let's kick it right off here. I got an email from Bob in Olathe, and he says, this is a delicate subject, but we might as well start with it. Bob in Olathe says, I am really perplexed. My dog likes to eat his own poop. What is going on here?
Well, we're going to get more delicate, because I have to say that it is an old myth that dogs that eat their poop have a nutrient deficiency in their diet.
Oh.
And that is generally not true.
Okay.
Dogs, unfortunately, eat their poop because they like it. And the only 100% cure is to pick it up after they go. So many dogs will go out there and find it if it's not just picked up immediately. Go ahead.
They don't eat other dogs' poop, though, all the time.
Some do, and it just varies. Some dogs eat their own, some dogs eat others, and it's just whatever they've decided they prefer. And there's no good reason for it, except they have very different tastes in their treats.
Oh, I'll betcha.
So there are some products on the market that you can add to food that's supposed to make their feces taste different and be less palatable, but I have really varied success with those, and honestly, the only thing that you can do to ensure your pet will not do that is to pick it up.
Just pick it up when you're done.
Get it out of the yard.
Now, we keep, at our house, they're biodegradable bags. And, of course, we walk our little dog, Rosie, through the neighborhood, but we also go out with her at night in the backyard. And so we pick up after her. And I, it sounds disgusting to pick it up even though your hand is inside a bag. But really, folks, it's not all that. It's not all that bad.
We can do it, yeah.
We can. Those things can be done. You bring it up, talking about treats and talking about nutrition and all. And Alice out in Blue Springs sent us an email, and I'm going to paraphrase kind of her her email. She says all over the TV and the radio, there are ads about what's the best dog and cat food. This or that food will improve their coat, their skin, whatever problem they have. What do I believe? How do I choose a good food for my pet?
This is a great question, and it is something we address every single day in our practice. In fact, multiple times every day. And, the public right now is just bombarded with information regarding pet nutrition and TV, radio. You get online and you see it everywhere. If you try to Google what your pet should eat, hundreds of answers come back. And sometimes it's great information, and sometimes, unfortunately, it's misinformation. Really, the best thing you can do is talk with your veterinarian about your pet's lifestyle and your pet's, anything that's going on with your pet, like thyroid issues or kidney issues, and what diet's going to be best for that. And if you're just looking for a maintenance diet, you need to ask your vet what's appropriate for your pet. We hear so many things about you need higher protein, which is incorrect, and you hear about there's the latest commercial is comparing dogs to wolves and feeding them these really high meat-based.
feeding them like wolves,
right? And they are not. Our domesticated dogs are far removed from those wolves.
Well, and isn't that meant to, like most dog food advertising in particular, it's meant to appeal to you and me.
That's exactly a great point.
So mm-hmm. I look upon my dog as a voracious wolf, and so
right.
I have to feed him that way. Or I remember, and I can't think of the name of the food, but it made its own gravy, and it was like tasty for the dog.
I remember that one too.
We liked
because we thought that
food.
Looks more appetizing. It's an aesthetic thing, not a nutritional thing. And so we see these commercials and we think, well, of course my dog needs to eat that high protein food,
sure.
when in reality that can be detrimental to your pet's health,
sure.
because your dog doesn't go hunt their own food and they don't need that protein level.
Some of them, like my Rosie, pretend that they're going
right.
to go hunt their own food, but they couldn't begin to catch anything.
Yeah. What you want to know, what the basics is you hear a lot about high protein, but our pets need the same types of mix of protein, fat, carbohydrates, amino acids, and all of those things, much more similar to us than carnivores. Our domesticated dogs are not carnivores. And so they do not need these excessive protein levels, and they do need the grains and the things you hear about trying to avoid these days. And you have to have those ingredients in there. So even if you think your pet, if you want to go towards like a grain-free diet or a natural diet or those kinds of things, you have to talk to your veterinarian about what brands are appropriate, because your pet needs those nutrients. And they actually need a high carbohydrate level for energy source. So you have to not eliminate those types of things and just don't believe all the hype. Talk to your veterinarian about what's right for your pet.
You're listening to The Home Show on KCMO Talk Radio 710 and 103.7 FM. You can ask the vet any question you want, and she'll do her best to answer it. Call us at 576-7710, 576-7710, just like Tom. Tom, welcome to The Home Show. You've got a question for Dr. Ferrell.
Yes, I'd like to know why my dog keeps wanting to eat grass, and then after he does that, then he'll upchuck it.
Yep, that's actually a great question, too, and we get that a lot during exams. Dogs typically don't eat grass with the purpose of throwing up, which is something that used to be believed pretty widely. They eat grass because they enjoy the taste. They like that water content when it's hot outside. But then the grass causes vomiting because they don't digest that well. And so the association between grass and vomiting, kind of started that myth that they do it because they want to throw up. So really, he's just eating the grass because he likes it. And then it's important to try to stop that as much as possible because it causes the vomiting because they're not able to digest it well. And then, of course, if your pet continues to vomit without the grass ingestion, you'd want to talk to your vet about other problems. But they just can't digest that grass and that type of plant material very well. So that's the vomiting issue.
And I know my little Rosie seems to be enamored of some little bitty plant that grows out there because she won't eat grass,
right.
But she'll eat whatever this plant is that I.
she likes some more gourmet plant
she
material.
Likes a little more gourmet attitude. We're going to take a little break, and when we come back, we're gonna have Trinity on the phone. She's going to hold through for us, I hope. And you're listening to The Home Show on KCMO Talk Radio 710 and 103.7 FM.
You're tuned in to KCMO Talk Radio 710 and 103.7 FM.
Welcome back to your Home Improvement Radio Hour, The Home Show, on KCMO Talk Radio 710. I'm Tom Bamford. My guest today in studio taking your phone calls is Dr. Andrea Ferrell. We're talking about pets because she's a veterinarian. You can join the show, 576-7710, 576-7710. And, of course, you can join the show on your smartphone, but only if you have the iHeartRadio app. Get on your smartphone and download the iHeartRadio app and take us with you everywhere you go. What could be better than that? The phone number is 576-7710. And Trinity, you've been very patient. You have a question for Dr. Ferrell.
Yes. My dog has a hereditary mange, and I'm wondering if there's a recommended home dip that I can give her. I've tried a bunch of different things, and nothing seems to work for her.
Was your pet diagnosed with a specific type of mange by your veterinarian?
Dex mites, if I'm not mistaken.
Demodex. Does Demodex sound familiar?
Yes.
Yeah, and that is typically if they have a hereditary defect that allows that mite to live on your pet. That is typically the quote-unquote hereditary mite. And did your veterinarian give you a treatment of some sort for?
Well, when she belonged to somebody else, she was going in for regular baths, but as soon as the first one would do her well, the person wouldn't bring her back for the follow-up one.
Right.
Yeah, and just like an antibiotic, it just stopped having an effect.
Yeah, it's got to be done regularly. Well, the bath that kills the mites is a prescription product, and it is carried by veterinarians. So he would need to be going to the vet to get those baths. And if your veterinarian does that regularly, even if those mites had been exposed to it before, really that should still become effective if you're doing it on the right schedule again. And if not, your vet could talk to you about, medications and things like that. But the bath is the primary form of treatment, and if done on the right schedule, should still be effective for treatment. So I would definitely get in touch with your vet and ask him if they could do that again. And it does take, just to warn you, weeks of baths to clear the mites entirely, especially if your dog has Demodex with that hereditary defect. So I would do that for sure.
We have an email from Susan in Lenexa, and she says, I watched The Dog Whisperer. I really like him, by the way. I think he's got
Caesar's very entertaining, isn't he?
He is entertaining, and I just can't believe some of the things he accomplishes. But I'm sure none of it is staged. After all, It's reality TV. And his answer always seems to be more exercise. How much exercise is right for my dog?
Well, that is one thing I really do agree with Caesar on, that exercise is the solution to many problems, because we have to use up our dog's energy, and we have to understand that they are animals that need a lot of activity and not just sitting around on the couch watching TV with us. But it's very, very specific to each pet as far as how much exercise your pet can tolerate right now. And so the first thing you'd want to do is have an evaluation by your veterinarian for your pet's body condition, because if your pet is overweight, not used to exercise, you're going to need to start much slower than if your pet currently runs every morning. And so talk with them first about what your pet's current lifestyle is and how to increase them to the appropriate amount of exercise based on their age, their current activity level, their diet, their lifestyle, that kind of thing. So it does vary quite a bit, but exercise is essential. So that's a great question. I encourage you to definitely find out where your pet is now and how to progress the appropriate amount of exercise per day.
And so, and we haven't really touched much on cats yet. I don't have a cat currently, so that's probably the reason. Blame it on me. You are listening to The Home Show on KCMO Talk Radio 710 and 103.7 FM. My guest today, Dr. Andrea Ferrell. She is one of the principals at Perimeter Veterinary Center. That's at 23734 West 83rd Street. It's out in Shawnee, and if you live out in that area, I will tell you that's where I take my dog. That's where many of my neighbors take their dogs, and I can't recommend them highly enough. 913-742-8387, or go on the web, perimeterveterinarycenter.com. .com. Now, we're talking about exercise, and we haven't talked about cats, but how about cats and exercise? What do you do about that?
Well, I'm glad you bring that up because it's also essential to our cat's health, especially because we really do recommend cats stay indoors at this point unless you're doing a lot of additional preventatives and vaccinations and things like that. So our indoor cats have to find another way to exercise. And I do actually write a blog on occasion, and I did one a couple of weeks ago about how to exercise cats.
And you can get to the blog at perimeterveterinarycenter.com.
Yep. Dr. Regehr and I both do a blog every week on some different health topics because it's hard to cover everything in the exam room. And with cats, my cat loves a laser pointer. And so even if I'm busy doing something, he can be, I can be doing that on the side, and he loves it. And that's his absolute favorite toy.
Okay.
Some cats really like the feather on a stick.
The feather on a stick.
Those
I've seen
are great.
That one. That's very cute.
One of my other favorite exercises for cats, and I love it for dogs too, but especially for cats, are feeding toys. And so instead of just putting their food in a bowl, you put it into these toys, and they have to work and run around to get the food out.
Okay.
So they're getting exercise as they eat. And that's another great one because most pets are going to go after the food no matter what, whether or not they like exercise.
Exactly. They're going to attempt that. And I'm going to skip to this email, which is where did it go? Where did it go? Dogs and cats, train my puppy. Oh, here it is. Mark in Liberty writes to ask about his cat. Should I bathe my cat? He has long hair and lets me comb him, but not for very long. Do cats need to have a regular bath?
Typically, they don't. Most cats' grooming behaviors are sufficient for their skin and hair coat needs. But if you do have a long-haired cat that doesn't sufficiently groom themselves and they're getting matted, then the brushing is necessary, and you're doing the right thing trying to do that. If they are still building up a lot of mats because he doesn't like to be brushed for very long, then you may want to consider a haircut for your kitty and just get that hair off because the area under mats can get inflamed and sore and have problems like that. So it's better actually to just take that hair off if they're not maintaining it themselves very well. If you have a long-haired cat that lets you brush them completely, then that's great. And you can continue to do that. But bathing is typically not necessary unless your cat has a skin condition or a problem, something like that.
Okay. You're listening to The Home Show, and you can join us at 576-7710. Ask the vet any question you want, and she'll do her best to answer it, and I'll just stand here and watch on in amazement. This is a good one, I think. This is from Alex, who describes himself as 10 years old, and he lives in Kansas City, Missouri. I am just starting to train my new puppy. She is a terrier mix, 10 months old and pretty frisky. What basic commands do I need?
That's a great question as well. All of our puppies really need to get some type of behavior training in. And the first things you're going to want to be working on are sit and stay, which are relatively obvious ones. Some type of command for leave it or drop it or those kinds of things where you're working on chewing behaviors as well as fetch and dropping the ball and things like that. And then you're going to want to work on leash walking relatively quick and getting used to a collar, getting used to having a leash on and things like that. There's a lot of resources for starting training with pets, and I encourage you to call us or call your veterinarian for getting started on a training program with a puppy because there's some explanation involved there. A couple of websites, too. You can go to our website and go to the resources page, and there's some websites there you can go to. One of them being ConfidentCanine.com. He's a wonderful dog trainer who's got some great information. And then WestwoodAnimalHospital.com has a behavior specialist, and he's got some really great puppy information there, too, on sort of getting started with those basic training. And then I always recommend puppies go through a puppy class. And Alex, even being young, can be the primary teacher in that class with, the training and everything to get the basics down.
Okay. When we get back, we're going to talk more with the veterinarian about all things dogs and cats. And I know you don't specialize in it, but I had someone send us an email asking about birds and fish and things like that. So we'll have a discussion about that when we get back from the break. You're listening to The Home Show on KCMO Talk Radio 710 and 103.7 FM. I want to just make this final reminder. If you're out in the yard and you're digging at all, you need to make sure you're safe. Before you dig, dial 811 and get them to mark your utility lines. This is The Home Show on KCMO Talk Radio.
KCMO Talk Radio 710, now at 103.7 FM. The latest KCMO news and Fox News Radio every hour, only on KCMO.
Hi there. Welcome back to The Home Show on KCMO Talk Radio 710 and 103.7 FM and iHeartRadio. Hey, you've heard me talk about KC Spray Foam, the folks who can super insulate your house, seal it completely at 913-440-9123 or on the web at kcsprayfoam.com. But spray foam is really good for sound insulation. If you have a situation where you really want to isolate your home from sound, spray foam insulation is a fabulous way to do it. Check it out. If you're building a new house, if you're remodeling, this is the perfect opportunity for you to get the best insulation, the most efficient insulation for your home. 913-440-9123 or kcsprayfoam.com. We're talking to my veterinarian, Dr. Andrea Ferrell, today, and we're taking your questions at 576-7710. And I also want to mention, we are blessed today because the regular morning show producer, Jared, is here on his day off to help us with my radio program, with your home improvement radio program today. And Jared, I'll throw you under the bus here, my friend. You came up with a question for the veterinarian. You want to fire that off?
I do have a question. Yes, thank you for giving me the opportunity, Tom.
You bet.
You're the man. I have an 18-month-old female German Shepherd. I love this dog, but I brush her daily. I use a fine-tooth comb. She sheds all over the house. I mean, all
knew where
day,
that question
every
was going.
day, all over the place. I cannot keep up with. So much hair. It's unbelievable.
I knew exactly where that question was going. You definitely have a dog with a thick undercoat, and right now with our weather, that's just all coming out. And you're doing the right thing with the brushing. There's no cure for shedding. I wish there was. I could retire on the money you could make from a cure for shedding, but there just isn't one. And you're doing the right thing with the brushing. But during this time of year, they're just going to keep blowing out that coat over and over again. You can also bathe them if you need to bathe as often as once a week to help loosen up that hair. And then one of my favorite products is called a Furminator, if you're familiar with that at all. It's a brush, but it takes out loose hairs as well as just the hair sitting on the surface. And so you can get a lot more effectiveness at removing hair. There's a picture on the back of the package, actually, where a room is full of hair brushed off a dog, and it's no exaggeration. So that might be something to try as well. But unfortunately, it's just going to be an ongoing problem.
We use the Furminator on Rosie? Yeah, and it's amazing. I swear, when you use that, there couldn't be any hair left.
I know you have a whole nother dog.
There couldn't be a dog left anymore. There is so much hair when you do it, but that's one of those things. You just that's
one of those things, Jared. We just have to say, keep brushing and good luck.
This morning, I took my shirt off the hanger, and there was a long white rosy hair. So it's a special for us.
Just a reminder of the pet in your life.
I'm going broke with all the lint rollers I have to purchase. It's everywhere.
You need to buy those in bulk.
We should invest in that.
There you go.
You folks can join us if you have a question for the veterinarian. Call us at 576-7710. We're having fun talking to Dr. Andrea Ferrell from Perimeter Veterinary Center. And I just wanted to chat for a minute or two about the business of running a veterinary. How on earth did you get into the veterinary business, and then what's it like when you're running a veterinary center all by between you and your partner?
Well, it is definitely complicated, and we don't get a lot of business training in veterinary school. And so it's something that Tabitha and I graduated together, and we have both been practicing for about 12 years. And both of us have always been interested in practice ownership. So we didn't just continue our education in the medical issues. We have taken a lot of business classes and things like that to prepare ourselves for this. Both of us always knew we wanted to do it someday, and we both worked at various clinics and sort of gathered a lot of information about what we wanted to do, what we didn't want to do, and we learned from the people we worked with. And finally, we were just both in places where it was the right time, and we're very similar in how we practice and our practice philosophy. So I am so blessed to have her as a partner, and we kind of split the duties as far as the business goes. And, I know I can leave town and everything is completely normal and taken care of, and she feels the same. And I tell you what, there's a lot of people who do it by themselves, and I would never do it without Tabitha. she's just amazing.
I don't know how you would run a business like that without a partner.
It's invaluable because she can see appointments and do all the doctor stuff, and I can be taking care of the business stuff in the background, and vice versa.
And
so we have each other to make sure we don't get behind on anything.
And I think I've heard in other health-related fields, there's no education for the doctor, for the nurse about what you do about business.
There isn't.
And folks, you can ask questions of the veterinarian at 576-7710, just like Elaine. Elaine, welcome to the Home Show. You have a question for Dr. Ferrell.
I do. Thank you for being there.
Hi, Elaine. Thanks for calling in.
I have a lab, but my question is, how can I introduce her to my new husband's a dog? I don't really know what kind his is. They were both abused animals that we are trying to give a home to, but they bite each other. They can't. We've been married 2 months now, and they still don't get along.
Go ahead.
So when our kids say, "Oh, Mom, they're just playing," but they have their mouths wide open like a crocodile, and is that the way they play?
Well, a lot of dogs do, and I have a little tiny 12-pound dog, and when she plays, I tell you what, she sounds like she's just as vicious as can be, and she's not at all. And so a lot of dogs do appear pretty aggressive when they're playing, and things that you can look at as far as cues, whether or not they're playing or truly fighting, are their tails up and wagging, are their ears up? Do they bow at each other as they're playing, where they kind of put their front end on the ground and their butt in the air as they're barking and biting at each other? If one of them's willing to roll on their back while they're playing, those are all signs that they may very well just be playing and sound aggressive. But if you are having trouble and think they truly are aggressive, again, talk to your veterinarian about those particular dogs and personality traits and what you could do to help adjust that. But also taking the dogs to a neutral area might help. Whether it's a park, or we have a big treatment area at the veterinary office where we can allow people to come in and have a neutral zone where their dogs are not territorial at all. So taking them to areas like that to play with each other as well may remove some of that new protecting our territory adjustment. But it may very well be playing. And so those are things you want to look at, is their tail position, and if they're wagging and happy. And the bow is really common in play, where they'll put their front end down while their bottom's up in the air. So that's another really good sign of just play.
I think that's, I know that you clued me about that several years ago, because I thought I keep mentioning my little dog, Rosie. She's a Papillon Havanese mix. And if we have enough time, we'll talk about breeds and how there always seems to be a new dog breed out there. But she plays very aggressively, but she wags her tail and her butt is up in the air and her front end is down. And so I finally clued in that everything was okay with that. We're talking to my veterinarian. She is Dr. Andrea Ferrell, and we're going to take a phone call, and you can join us at 576-7710, 576-7710. Pat, welcome to the Home Show. You've got a question for the doctor.
Yes, I do. We have 2 cats that are 2 years old, and all of our neighbors and friends have dogs.
and we all get together and spend time in the evenings or afternoons in each other's yards. And when everybody comes to our house, I want to know the best way to introduce the dogs to our 2 cats without freaking them out.
Sure. If you have more than one dog or you have a large group of people, you may actually want to just separate the cats, and they may actually be less stressed if they just get to go have their own room for a while you guys have your social gathering. So you may want to just choose a room in your house where you can put a litter box and food and water and let them have their own space. Introducing a cat to one new animal or person can be difficult for them. They're a little bit more high anxiety and territorial than dogs are. So that may become difficult. If you have more than one animal coming into the house and a group of people, that may become difficult and stressful for the cats. So really, unless you just strongly wanted them to be part of the gathering, I would actually separate the cats and kind of just let them have their own relaxed evening. We're going to take a little break. And when we get back, there's more with Dr. Andrea Ferrell. Next week on the Home Show, I want to talk about water features. Let's talk about fountains and water and rivers and all the crazy things you can do with water around your home. My name's Tom Bamford, and I am proud every week to bring you the Home Show on KCMO Talk Radio 710 and 103.7 FM.
The KCMO Morning Show.
You provide what they want, and you get rich.
Greg Neff, mornings 5 to 9 on KCMO Talk Radio 710. Now on FM at 103.7.
You're back with the Home Show on KCMO Talk Radio 710 and 103.7 FM. And on your smartphone, wherever you go, there I am. But only if you download the iHeartRadio app. Go to your app store, download iHeartRadio, and listen to me everywhere. What a joy. My guest today is Dr. Andrea Ferrell. She's my veterinarian, and we're sharing information with you. Give us a phone call, 576-7710, 576-7710. We've been taking phone calls. We've been talking to Jared, my producer, and we've been going over your emails. And I've got a really good one here. I've heard you on the Home Show before, and you always talk about dogs and cats. That's okay, but I have a bird, and my son has a snake. Do you know someone we can see about their needs? And that's from Barbara out in Lee's Summit.
I do actually have several veterinarians I can tell you that see those types of animals. We don't at Perimeter Veterinary Center because those types of animals actually have really different needs than dogs and cats, and I think it's important that you do that on a daily basis if you're going to treat those pets. So there's several out in the Missouri area. Belton Animal Hospital has a really, really good exotics practice, meaning they see both birds and reptiles and things like that. And then Olathe Animal Hospital, for those of you on that side of town, sees exotics. And then Monticello Animal Clinic in Shawnee sees exotic pets as well. Okay. So those are good areas to check out depending on where you live.
For your bird or for your snake or
Absolutely.
For your reptile or maybe for your... I wondered about fish because, people invest a lot of money in fish.
They really do with the aquariums and things available now. Absolutely.
I can't imagine if you were to get some kind of weird fish disease running amok, it could cost you a fortune. Maybe that's your answer, Jared. You could just get rid of the dog and have fish.
Fish do not shed. That's
true. They do not shed, or at least not in any noticeable way. Andrew in Overland Park says, we're looking for a new dog. There are 2 young boys in the family and 2 adults. What are the advantages of purebred dogs? That's an interesting question. Purebred dogs. Are there any breeds we should avoid? And when we go to pick out the dog, what should we look for? He says, thanks.
That's a great question, Andrew. We, as far as purebred dogs go, unless you have a specific need, like a certain type of allergy to hair or dander, purebred dogs...
Because there really are hypoallergenic hypoallergenic
Yeah, there's no such
dog.
thing as a truly hypoallergenic
Right.
dog, but there are dogs that shed less, that have less fur, those kinds of things if you had an allergy type issue. But other than that, there's not necessarily an advantage to a purebred dog unless you're looking for just a specific breed you're familiar with or had a good experience with before. Statistically speaking, the more mixed a dog is, the less inbreeding in their history, the less health problem they tend to have, the fewer health problems they tend to have. So the more inbred, for lack of a better word, they are, the more closely related their bloodline is. That's where we get hip dysplasia and things like that, because we've been breeding for a certain appearance.
And the problems with bulldogs and breathing and the infections they get in the folds on their face.
Absolutely.
Purebred dogs are gorgeous, and I know we all are fascinated when we see the Westminster Kennel.
Oh, I love to watch the dog shows.
I love to watch the dog shows.
Absolutely.
It's fabulous stuff. And my understanding is that most of those dogs are actually family pets. They just happen to be very expensive family pets that are trained and shown. But that brings me to, I keep running across, I ran across a new breed, you knew what it was, a Shiba Inu, I had never heard of. And shortly before we got our little dog Rosie, who's part Havanese, I discovered that there was such a thing as Havanese. It seems to be never ending. There seems to be an endless list of dogs and cats, for that matter.
There are, and to be 100% honest with you, every now and then I come across a breed that I've not heard of, and it's been several years since someone came in with a dog, and I thought, oh, I don't know what this is. But it is hard to keep up with, and there are literally hundreds of breeds, and some of them are quite rare as pets, so you don't hear much about them.
One of my favorites, and I've never seen one, is a Chinese crested.
Yep.
With the kind of spotty skin and the funny hairdo. That seems very strange to me.
Yes, we've had several of those as patients. They have nice personalities, although they're a little funny looking.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating. And I remember the first time I met a Brussels Griffin.
Oh, yes.
And I immediately looked at it and said, Oscar the Grouch.
Absolutely. Well, and that movie, As Good as It Gets, is where Brussels got sort of popular because that little dog is one. And when that movie came out, I thought, what is that little dog? Because he's adorable.
Yep.
And then later, of course, I was learning breeds and everything as we went along and really familiar with them now.
This was a friend of the family when I lived in Idaho. And they had an Afghan and a Brussels Griffin.
Yeah,
now you can't
that's
think
a pair.
That's a pair. Oh, here's an email. This is really kind of a plea, and they ask that we not use their name. Can we please enforce the leash and pickup laws? I am tired of my neighbor's dogs running free and using my yard for their toilet. Well, hear.
Yeah, boy, I hear that. It's very frustrating to keep your own yard clean and then find someone else's dog's stool in there or a cat that's running free and they're using your yard. The other thing I wish people realized is when you're leaving your pet's stool out there, that's one of the contributors to the intestinal parasites and things we see in pets. And so it is a potential spread of disease as well as just being messy and certainly not aesthetically pleasing if someone's walking along and sees that.
Well, and I don't want to hear anybody tell me about how they're fertilizing the lawn.
Absolutely.
Dog feces in particular is not it is not good for your lawn. They eat the wrong stuff for that to be true.
That's exactly right. The contents of fecal matter is not the appropriate fertilizer for your lawn, and sometimes it can't even cause problems with the lawn.
And we have ranted and raved our way close to the end of another hour. My guest this week has been Dr. Andrea Ferrell, Perimeter Veterinary Center. Check them out online, perimeterveterinary.com, 913-742-8387. Dr. Ferrell, the next time you come in, I'd like you to bring Dr. Regehr with you when you come.
I would love
to
bring her. So, Dr. Regehr, if you're listening to us, we want you here with me. So we'll see if we can drag her along, too.
And there'll be no fear. I want to say thank you to each and every one of you listening because I think of you as my friends. And thank you to my wife, Susan. You are the light of my life. Thank you to Rachel, Joey, and Logan. Because, there's one thing I know for certain. The smiles of our grandchildren are proof We are loved by God. This has been The Home Show on KCMO Talk Radio.